So what does that leave us in John chapter 20? And what does John chapter 20 have to do with the question of why Jesus must rise from the dead? You notice what John says in the first verse of this story. It says, on the first day of the week. On the first day of the week, something new is happening. A new creation story is happening. And so when Mary supposes that Jesus is the gardener, what John is telling us is that the God who created the garden in Genesis chapter 1 is creating a new garden in John chapter 20. In other words, the gardener of Genesis 1, God himself, is gardening again, creating a new creation kind of world on this day, starting with Jesus. That the God who brought life from nothing in Genesis 1 is now bringing life from death in John chapter 20. A new week has started. God is recreating the world through Jesus. The gardener is gardening again. That is why Jesus must rise from the dead, because God is a God who brought life from nothing, and now God is a God who brings life from death. And that in knowing Jesus, in seeing and believing in who he is, new creation can come to you like it came to Mary. So what difference does that make for you? How does that meet us right here in 2021 in the midst of our confusion and our hopelessness and our uncertainty? You see, I talk to people a lot of times and they say, man, if I stepped foot in church, I would catch fire. If I stepped foot in church, I think lightning would come down from the sky. There's no possible way that I could enter church. There's no possible way that I could know God or have an understanding or relationship with God. If I walked into church, God would judge me. You see, what John is saying in John chapter 20 is this new day of new creation. It doesn't start in a nice, fertile garden out in the farmlands. It starts behind a rocky tomb with a huge stone on the other side. That God begins his recreation work in the most hopeless and confused of places. Which means that if you're here and you think that God can never do anything in your life, think about Mary and her grief. Think about who she was and where she was confused, and when she sees Jesus and believes in him, in that moment, her life is changed forever. That God is beginning a recreation work, and he wants to do it in your life. And it doesn't take anything on your part but simply seeing and believing. In fact, at the end of John's story in chapter 20, he says that this is why he's told this story. The reason why he's told this story is so that you might see who Jesus is. And that by seeing in him, you might believe in him. And that when you believe in him, you have life, resurrection life, that Jesus starts on Resurrection Sunday.